Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Oh,
It's a little bit echoey.
Ari?
Make up for this woman who does everything. Sound, chanting Torah, opening the door. Anyways, Shabbat Shalom once again, and welcome to everyone. It's so good to see you here. It's so wonderful to see your smiling faces. And it's so good for us to be together. And we welcome those of you at home who are joining us virtually. How wonderful it is that we can be multi-access and join together as one kehillah, whether we can be physically in the room or not. And we greet this Shabbat on this beautiful spring day. The weather is gorgeous and it makes all of us feel good. I hope lifting all our spirits as we celebrate and welcome Shabbat together. So let's sing some more.
Page 6.
With Lecha Dodi.
Shabbat
with the lighting of the candles for Shabbat on page 8. And it's a pleasure to invite up onto the bima to light the candles Alan and Marion Goldberg in honor of Alan's 80th birthday. I said to him
never know.
when he came into the building, I sure wish I was in the shape you're in when I reach 80. Still playing tennis several days a week. And Marion too. Yeah, it's a setup.
Come on, Mary, this is for him.
I didn't know about this, or I wouldn't have come.
You know, Alan, you've been so supportive of the temple and done so much for us with the renovation and heading up the foundation fund all these years. And you make it look so easy because you're so very good at it and because you always do it with your heart. And we thank you and we celebrate with you this milestone in your life turning 80. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
We're so happy that you enter this next decade of your life with so much health and so much vigor and so much love for Marion, for your family, and for your temple. And you're always sharing yourself.
Thank you very much.
And Marion thought, what would be the perfect gift for a man who has everything he wants?
Besides me.
Besides you. Talk about that later. And she realized that something that you love so much that's so meaningful is the temple. And so she is gifting for your birthday, in honor of your 80th birthday, a new leaf on our Simcha tree out in the lobby. That'll have your name on it, and in honor of your 80th birthday.
Thank you. Wonderful.
And we continue, we wish you continued good health and long life and many simchas surrounded by your family and your community and all who love you. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face smile down upon you today and all the days of your life. May you continue to be blessed and to be a blessing and to know the gift of shalom, of fullness, contentment, and peace. Amen.
I got a kiss, and it's not supposed to be a kiss.
So nice to celebrate a simcha. And we continue on page 9. And those who are able, we invite you to rise physically or to rise, if you can't, in your heart as we join together in the call to worship.
Barechu et Adonai,
Adonai, Last week I shared with you what I called a redemption story. If you were here or if you weren't, it was the story about bakers all around the world who were baking Hamantaschen for Purim and donating the proceeds towards refugee relief in Ukraine. Well, this week I want to share with you another redemption story. Jose Andres, a Spanish American, came to this country as a young man with $50 in his pocket and a dream to become a successful restaurateur. And he worked very hard, saving enough to open his first restaurant in New York, Spanish-style restaurant. He's credited with introducing small plates, tapas, to North America. And then another restaurant in Miami, and another one in Los Angeles, and another one in Las Vegas, and you get the picture. And he became very successful and very wealthy, and then he decided he wanted to give back. He was thankful for his success and the blessings that he had in his life. He wanted to help people. And what did he know how to do best? Cook and feed people, feed hungry stomachs. So he started an organization, World Central Kitchen, and they started responding to disasters, both natural and man-made, all around the world, anywhere where people were suffering and needed to be fed. And they would travel to those places, his staff and a bevy of volunteers set up a temporary kitchen and cook meals and feed people. Well, you can guess this month where they are. They're on the border between Poland and Ukraine, and they are making 10,000 delicious sandwiches every day and 60,000 hot meals. You can imagine how many hungry and needy people, refugees, that is feeding, giving them warmth, giving them sustenance, giving them hope. And I certainly think that's also a wonderful, wonderful redemption story to inspire all of us to do and to give. Saving lives, saving the world, one sandwich and one hot meal at a time. And now let us read on the top of page 11. Together, standing at the water's edge, the sea spray on your cheek, close your eyes and feel within the beating of freedom's drum. Listen closely on the breeze. Do you hear the music of the ages? Oh God, you beat the drum. You are the song. You are the wonder in each of us. With joy and awe, we sing to you this song of freedom. I'm glad you like that, Kira.
The Shamru is on page 13. Maybe you'll like that one too.
Shamru, b'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam brit olam. Shamru, b'nei Yisrael, Asa Adonai, Asa Adonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat ledorotam brit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat. We continue on the bottom of page 13 as we chant together the Amidah. And I invite those of you who can to please rise, or those who can to rise in their hearts as we pray together. Anananananana Adonai, Anananananana Sfatai Tifta, Anananananana Ufiani, Ufiani Tehilateha, Anananananana Adonai, Anananananana Sfatai Tifta, Anananananana Ufiani, Ufiani Tehilateha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol, Atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mechakel Chaim b'Chesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofech olim, Umatir hasurim, Umekayem emunato, Ishanei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman nata l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom, Yehaladucha sela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated.
Let us read together. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, utfilatam be'ahavat tekabel, uthilaratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, baruch atah Adonai, sha'odcha levadcha be'yirah na'avod. Be gracious, O Lord our God, to your people Israel, and receive our prayers with love. May our worship always be acceptable to you. Modim anachnu la sha'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, leolam va'ed, sur chayenu, magen ishenu, atahu v'dor v'dor. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, each day by day sustains us.
For all these and more, we offer thanks. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki atahu melech hadar, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech hadar, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael, b'chol עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
With thoughts and prayers of shalom, of peace. Shalom Rav, a great peace on our lips and in our hearts. We take a few quiet moments now as we turn inward to our own hearts and souls and pray the prayers that come from within, or to read beautiful meditations on the following pages. Tfilat Halev, the prayer of the heart. Well, with the continuing focus on Ukraine and the Ketanji Jackson Supreme Court confirmation hearings both dominating the news this week, you might not have heard about the terrible incident that took place in Israel on Tuesday, when 4 Israelis were killed and 2 others wounded in a ramming and stabbing attack in Beersheba. It was awful. According to police, the assailant first stabbed a woman to death at a gas station. Then he got in his car and rammed a cyclist before getting out again and stabbing several more people at a shopping center. Much of what happened was caught on security cameras, and the scenes are shocking and grotesque. It's the worst attack of its kind in Israel in several years. This terrorist was confronted by an armed bus driver who attempted to get him to lower his weapon, but the attacker lunged at the driver, who then shot him. The driver, Arthur Chaimov, told reporters he first thought there had been a car accident, but then he saw the man running around brandishing a knife. "I got closer," he said. "Then I told the stabber several times, 'I'm asking you to put down the knife. I won't shoot you.'" Chaimov stressed he'd done all he could to avoid shooting the terrorist and was pained to have done so, despite the terrorist's murderous actions. He's a person, not an animal you need to kill. He was also a person. We're human beings. We're not animals, Chaimov said. Unfortunately, this is not the first time Israelis have been forced into making such split-second life and death decisions, needing to take a life in order to save lives, innocent lives. Sometimes it's young soldiers in the line of duty. Sometimes it's armed civilians who happen onto the scene, like this heroic bus driver. And sometimes the aftermath is not so black and white. In this case, the assailant died of his wounds on the scene, and there was nothing more to do but tend to the wounded. But sometimes, both the attacker and the victims are only wounded, and so when the first responders arrive, they need to decide who to treat first. If the condition of both is the same, there's no question you treat the victim first. But what if it is obvious that the victim will live, but the terrorist will die without immediate attention? Who do the medics work on first? You should know, first of all, that this is a subject of major ongoing debate in Israel. The Israel Medical Association has instructed all doctors and medics to give care to all casualties at a terror scene according to the severity of the wounds, with the directive explicitly saying, including the terrorists who carried out the attack. This also happens, by the way, in Israeli emergency rooms where the same rules apply, and you often see victims and terrorists being treated just a few feet away from each other by the same teams of doctors, who, by the way, are often both Jewish Israeli and Arab Israeli, working together. There are in Israel dissenting voices that take a different point of view, and it's not surprising, for this obviously is a gut-wrenching issue. For instance, an organization called Zaka, which stands for Disaster Victim Identification, has gone on record protesting the Israel Medical Association's ruling. Zaka, which is made up mostly of Orthodox Jews, is usually first on the front lines assisting ambulance crews and offering first aid and rescue services. And they do an amazing job. And they fill a vital role. But here's what the chairman and founder of Zaka said. "We direct Zaka volunteers to first treat the Jewish victims of a terror attack without blinking an eye." And he continued, Only after the victims have been given medical assistance should they begin treating the murderous terrorists that carried out the attack. So, who's right? We're not going to vote. From a Jewish, religious perspective, truthfully, I don't really know. Because some rabbis say to treat the victims first, and others argue to treat the worst injured first. But the very fact that Israelis struggle with these issues shows sensitivity and reflects the high ethical bar that Israel sets for itself, and that Jewish tradition demands. Judaism has such a high regard for life. L'chaim, we say when we lift a glass, to life. It's one of our most central values, and that's any human life, not just Jewish lives. This sensitivity is reflected in a very interesting way in the Torah, where we are commanded, and you shall not eat any blood of fowl or beast in any of your dwelling places. Whoever eats any blood, that soul will be cut off from his people. This prohibition against eating blood is repeated several times in the Torah to underscore its importance. Now, anyone who is familiar with the laws of kashrut, of keeping kosher, knows that it's not enough to avoid eating pork or shellfish, and it's not enough to avoid mixing meat and milk. If you are truly observant in the Orthodox fashion, then you will only eat kosher meat that's slaughtered by a kosher butcher, and you will only eat it if the blood has been carefully drained and washed and soaked in salt to bring out whatever blood might still be left. That's why kosher meat can often be a little bit on the chewy side. But why do we have this prohibition against eating blood? And what does it have to do with our dilemma? A lot of answers are given, but perhaps the best answer is found in the commentary of Rabbeinu Baye, the highly regarded 13th century Spanish commentator, who writes, because blood represents the animal life, and it is improper for us to mix that nature with our nature. We are commanded to make our nature soft and merciful and not cruel. And if we ate the blood, our souls would give rise to cruelty and rudeness of nature, as it were, like the beastly soul. End quote. We don't eat animal blood, in other words, because we abhor the bloodlust of the animal kingdom. We do everything possible not to act in a bloodthirsty manner. The former head of the Israeli Defense Forces, Gadi Eisenkot, came out with a statement several years ago that I think reflects this sensitivity. He advised soldiers to kill only as a last result, not a first resort. He said that he didn't want a soldier to empty a magazine on a girl holding a pair of scissors. Defense Minister at that time, Moshe Ya'alon, backed the chief of staff, saying, I give him my full backing. We can't allow ourselves to become desensitized or to have itchy trigger fingers. Now, I would hate to find myself in so many of the perplexing situations that Israeli soldiers find themselves in. These young kids, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're sent out to protect and safeguard Israeli citizens. And I, for one, would find it very hard to question the actions or motives of a soldier or a civilian, as in this week's incident, who made split-second life or death decisions in dealing with the knife-wielding terrorists. You can imagine yourself in a situation like that. And think about how you would respond. But I do know that our tradition bends over backwards to be careful when it comes to shedding blood. Do you know that the law states that a Kohen, a Jew descended from the priests of the temple, that has shed blood, even by accident, is barred from performing the priestly benediction that I bestowed a few minutes ago on Alan? In the words of our sages, the hands that shed blood cannot be the hands that offer blessings. And our tradition also teaches that King Solomon, and not King David, built the temple because David, in leading his people into battle, had shed too much blood. David did what had to be done. No one was saying he killed indiscriminately, but he killed. Such a person could not be the architect of something holy. In less than a month, Jews around the world will sit down at our Seder tables for Pesach, for Passover. And if we are reading from the traditional Haggadah, we will read a verse that says, Vayerehu otanu hamitzrim. And the literal translation is, and the Egyptians were bad to us. They mistreated us. But other translations say the Egyptians considered us bad, or they suspected us of evil. But the most relevant translation is the Egyptians made us bad. We began to stoop to their level. There is always a danger and tendency during war to lash back at one's enemies. Enemies who blow up school buses and Pesach Seders and pizza parlors and take knives and stab innocent children and women and non-combatants. Enemies who murder indiscriminately. There is always a tendency to strike back measure for measure. But we are commanded explicitly not to do that. The Torah tells us, the Torah commands us, do not emulate the abominable practices of the Egyptians. So, we take pride in our ethical standards, but standards mean little if we do not live by them. So let us all learn to act as our tradition teaches us to act, even in the most challenging circumstances. All it takes are three things, in the words of the prophet Micah: to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. Let this be our calling. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. Amen. I'd like to invite Andrew Bernhard to please come and join us on the bima and to take the honor of helping to undress the Torah. And I ask all who can to please rise as our ark is open.
We're on page 20.
Ki mitzion teitzei Torah. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah. Udevar Adonai b'Yerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah. Beit Yaakov lechuvanelcha be'or Adonai, O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of our God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Romevu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'hishtatavu Ve'hakosho. Romevu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'hishtatavu Ve'hakosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romevu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romevu. Romevu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'hishtatavu Ve'hakosho. Romevu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'hishtatavu Ve'hakosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romevu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romevu. You may be seated. Thank you. I should go out. Oh, you're gonna stay up. Okay. We'll give you the honor of dressing the Torah too. So our Torah portion this week, which I'm going to read a few verses of from the beginning, is called Shmini. And if you know how to count in Hebrew, do you know that word? Chat, Shtaim, Shalosh, Arba, Chamesh, Shesh, Sheva, Shmona. Shmini means 8, or the 8th. And it refers to the 8th day, because in last week's parsha, the Torah portion last week, the people were commanded to stand at attention at the entrance to the tent of meeting. And today, in the beginning of this parsha, Shmini, it was the 8th day. And now they're commanded finally to come and bring several different kinds of sacrifices. And we've talked about it several times. To the modern person, the idea of animal sacrifices seems so odd. You know, we're praying to God by slaughtering an animal and burning it. I love barbecue, but that doesn't sound like something religious. But in the minds of our ancestors, this was a gift, and it was a way of drawing near to God. The Hebrew word for sacrifice is korban, which is also the name for a rabbi who comes to a new congregation following a beloved rabbi of many years. That new rabbi is the korban. Do you get that joke? The korban. That's kind of an inside joke amongst rabbis. Anyway. Korban, the root letters mean to draw near. So in the minds of our ancestors, they were drawing near to God or bringing God near to them through the making of these sacrifices. And it's a pleasure and an honor to invite Steve and Marianne Schermerhorn to join us on the bima. Once again, in celebration of a double simcha, they're both celebrating their birthdays. I don't think they've reached 80. They're far from it. Maybe getting close. Are you? You haven't reached 80, have you? You haven't reached 80, have you?
Oh, yeah. I am 80.
Oh, how did that? Well,
Eighty-one.
there's something about the water, or maybe the life of this congregation that keeps people so young and vital. Happy birthday to both of you. And here's the beginning, right here.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarak,
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai notein ha'torah.
Amen. Vayehi b'yom hashmini kara Moshe le'Aharon ulvanav uleziknei Yisrael. Vayomer el Aharon kach lecha egel ben bakar lechata'at va'ayel le'ula tamimim ve'ekrev lifnei Adonai. Ve'el bnei Yisrael tidaber lemor kachu sa'ir ezim lechata'at ve'egel ve'keves bnei shana tamimim le'ola. V'shur va'ayel lishlamim lezevach lifnei Adonai. Umincha belula b'shemen ki hayom Adonai nir'eh elechem v'yikachu et asher tziva Moshe el pnei ohel moed v'yakrivu kol ha'ida v'ya'amdu lifnei Adonai. V'yomer Moshe zeh hadavar asher tziva Adonai ta'asu v'yarash alechem kavod Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nota betochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai notein ha'torah.
Amen. Yasher kochachem, and we wish the two of you happy birthdays. I'm so embarrassed. I totally was off on the numbers, but you should be proud of that.
And I'm turning 59 this week.
And you're turning 59.
Yes.
It's always great to be accused of being younger. Now that I grew this beard, nobody accuses me of being that young rabbi anymore. And in the presence of our Sefer Torah, we like to say special blessings for friends and family who are in need of our loving care, of our phone calls and our visits and a meal, and whatever we can do to give them a little strength in their time of healing. It really makes a difference. And they need our prayers, and we need to offer our prayers for good health and for healing. And we invite those of you who are joining us from home to please send us on the chat the names of friends and family whom you'd like to share from the Bima. And these are the names we have on our list: Casey Campbell-Shatman, Diane Dakin, Randy Watkins, Gabby Lopez-Smith, Rebecca Williams, Victor Altman, Rose Machado, John Kaplan, Barry Klein, Ellen Clore, Jonathan Kelly, Thomas Boggs, Louise Riddle-Kaufman, Nan Jacobs, Carol Hogue, Diane Smith, Judy Platt, Deborah Blinder, Robert Kurtzer, and Rachel Frederick. And I invite anyone here who has a few names to add, please do so.
Scott Neistat, Donald Tuman, Jake Walker, Eileen Sadler, Melissa Katz, Lisa Rampolia, Dawn Cordana, and Bertie Sullivan. Misha Bayrock can be found on page 23.
May the source of strength to those names mentioned aloud, those of us here who are in need of these same prayers for refuat nefesh and refuat haguf, for healing of body and mind. And sometimes it's our hearts, but I don't mean our physical hearts, but sometimes it's our spirits that need strength and need healing. And when we sing Misha Berach, we are singing with that in mind as well for ourselves and for those we love. May we all find wholeness and healing. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, O God, who heals the sick.
Amen.
Amen.
We continue with a prayer for peace for Ukraine and all those fleeing. And there's the prayer on the screen. And
Let us join together. Holy One, source of strength, we ask your protection for Ukraine and its citizens. We pray for their safety and for the security of neighboring countries that have opened their borders to all those seeking refuge. We seek comfort and hope, even in the face of insurmountable odds. Bless our world leaders with the ability to work together for the greater good and the wisdom to make wise decisions. May the words of Isaiah, "Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more," become true in our day, in this very hour. Source of goodness, shelter us, shield us, and show us the path to peace. Please rise.
Vezot
HaTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe.
Ki lekachtav natati lachem
Torati al ta'azovu Eitz chayim hi lam hachazikim apa v'tomchecha me'usha devachecha darkei noam ve'pon tivotecha shalom We conclude each of our services by taking a quiet and reverent moment of memory to hold in our hearts our loved ones who are no longer with us physically, but they're here in a very real way because we hold them in our hearts. We hold them in our memories and in our minds, and so they continue on those hard days to carry us, those good memories. I have to announce the death of a longtime member of our temple that many of you might not have known. She wasn't very active in the temple. She was a very unassuming woman, but she was a wonderful, wonderful woman, and if you ever met her, you became her friend. And in her retirement, she, with a group of ladies, would go to nursing homes and assisted living facilities, and she had a portable keyboard that she played, and they would sing and perform and bring a little sunshine into the lives of those old people who she was not that much younger. And her life was truly a blessing. Shirley Lubin, remembered with love by her son, Ronald, and her daughter-in-law, Jeannie. May her memory be for a blessing. We invite everyone who is joining us on the live stream to please share with us the names of family members. If you are in the Shiva, the 7 days, or the Shloshim, or the 30 days, or Shana period of mourning, please share the names of your loved one. And if you are observing a yortzeit and you think we don't have the name of your loved one, please share that with us as well. And these are the names.
Do you want to do their Shiva?
I'll do that after.
Okay.
These are the names that we have on our list of those who have a yortzeit sometime in the week ahead. Joel Clare, Benjamin Singer,
Please rise if you hear your loved one's name.
Laura Freiberger, Miriam Jacobs, Gloria Hodgin, Annette Adamson, Betty Fraser, Mojeska Hackett, Inez Amador, Milton Manuel Lustig, Jody Kowelty, Timothy James Judson, Jay Hirsch, Bud Apple, Nettie Hersberg, Kenneth Berg, Francis Shaw, Esther Naranjo, and Forrest Greenberg. And I have one more name that I want to share. If you've been paying attention, you might have heard on television more than once that the national flower of Ukraine is the sunflower. And you might have seen pictures of sunflowers, beautiful, yellow, bright sunflowers in Ukraine, in contrast to all the devastation, all the pictures we see of destroyed buildings and destroyed lives. And I don't think they could have picked a better flower for the people of Ukraine who have so much strength and hang on to so much hope with determination to defeat this enemy and to rebuild their country when this is over. And I'm sharing this with you because I happen to know of a young lady we're missing whose yortzeit, whose first yortzeit is this week, Sophia Boysa, and her favorite flower was a sunflower. Because like her, it was bright. And like her, it brought so much joy into the lives of her friends and her family, and we love her. And we remember her as we mourn her passing, especially this week on the first anniversary.
And we're with you, Miriam and John.
May her memory and the memory of all our precious loved ones be for a blessing and a never-ending source of strength. Do we have any more names to add?
There's nothing else on the
And
live stream.
does anyone else here have a yard site that we haven't mentioned. Is his yard site already? Oh,
Okay,
we're not
you're
at
in
yard
the
site
Shana.
yet.
Well, she's in the Shana. She's
Okay,
in the Shana.
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, absolutely. We always think of food. Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yes, and Madeleine Albright. May her memory be a blessing, our former and first female Secretary of State, who was an immigrant to this country, if you know anything about her, and was raised as a Christian, but discovered late in life, surprise, she was Jewish.
Also add Bart Silvers to our memory. Is there anyone else that has a name they would like to?
And we remember all those whose lives have been lost in Ukraine, and we remember the 6 million who died in the Holocaust, so many leaving no one to remember them. We take them all into our hearts as we rise and join together in Mourner's Kaddish.
On page 26.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divra cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman.
Kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach
V'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu, la'elam hinkol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran v'yoma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlamad rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all the bereaved among us, and let us say, Amen. Please be seated.
So thank you, Ari, for keeping us on live stream this week. And thank you to Beth Sanders and Donna Smith for their musical participation this evening. Happy birthday to John Harris. Thank you, Alan and Marion, for lighting the candles. And again, happy birthday to Alan. Yasher Koach to Steve and Marianne for their Aliyah, and happy birthday to both of you. What else? Any other birthdays? You have 1 week left to place your food fair order. I hope you all saw it on your email or in your mailbox. This year's food drive is June 5th. Food fair is a drive-through event on June 5th. We do not expect to be selling additional items that day, so please be sure to pre-order your food fair favorites by April 1st. It's coming up.
It will be sold out.
You can find both an online form and a hard copy form on our website at templeisraelstockton.com. In the past, each member has been asked to purchase 10 brunch tickets at a total cost of $120, and we're not doing that. We're asking for that this year. But we do hope that you'll consider ordering at least that much in product or brunches, or even help by sending a donation towards underwriting a workshop, a fun shop. And get ready to make blintzes. Our first fun shop will be held next Saturday and Sunday, April 2nd and 3rd, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We need crepe makers, rollers, packers, and dishwashers. Call or email the office to volunteer. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
I think it's very meaningful that our first fun shop is blintzes. Anyone who knows the history of our Jewish food fair knows that's how it all got started. What are we, almost 50 years ago now?
Yeah.
It started as the blintz brunch and evolved into the bagel brunch, and then it became the food fair. But it all started over a blintz.
That's true. Our closing song is Od Yavo. If you need the words, they're on page 27.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'alam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'alam. Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, oh Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, ve'akulam.
So good to hear you.
Oh Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, oh Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, oh Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, ve'akulam. Salam Aleinu ve'akol ha'olam, salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'akol ha'olam, salam, salam. Oh Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, oh Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, oh Shabbat Shalom Aleinu, ve'akulam.
You'd find Kiddush and Motzi on page 34.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim.
And thank you, Deborah, for baking our challah this evening. Ooh, pretty
Ooh.
one. Lots of seeds, poppy,
Beautiful.
and sesame.
And I'm certain it tastes as
No
good as
poppy?
it looks.
Just sesame? Black and white sesame, okay.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. On Shalosh, let's say Shabbat Shalom to all those who are watching from home. Chad, Shtayim, Shalosh.
Shabbat Shalom. Have a great
Have a
week.
wonderful Shabbat and a wonderful weekend.
Mwah.